Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the DJ and Vish. I guess Sunday morning show at this point. It was originally the day after a game show, but we're just regularly scheduled programming at this point. DJ, thanks for joining me this morning.
Yeah, no problem. Good morning, Vish. Good morning, everybody. Sunday morning show sounds good. I wondered if we would carry this over into the off season, and then the off season turned into a college football playoff berth, and now here we are. And I remember last show we were all signing our regular season goodbyes, but thankfully the committee made the right decision, and here we are. So I can't wait to preview Texas A&M a little bit.
Yep, we'll be doing that in a second. First, a word from our sponsor, 305-800-PAIN. After an accident, every minute counts. With one call to 305-800-PAIN, you get immediate access to trusted doctors and attorneys who guide you step by step. With an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau, they're a brand you can trust. Much like 5 Reasons Canes, 305-800-PAIN is focused on the local community of Miami-Dade County and South Florida. They'll handle all your accident needs, including car accidents, personal injuries, and related legal matters. So after an accident, be sure to call 305-800-PAIN. The number is the brand, 305-800-PAIN. Después de un accidente, cada minuto cuenta. Con una llamada 305-800-PAIN, ustedes pueden obtener acceso inmediatamente a doctores y abogados para ayudar con todo el proceso. Con una clasificación de A+ del Better Business Bureau, pueden confiar en ellos. 305-800-PAIN tiene mucho en común con los centros de las games. Están enfocados en la comunidad local de Miami-Dade County y el Florida del Sur. Ellos pueden ayudar con todo después de un accidente, incluyendo accidentes de carro, lesiones personales y otras cosas legales relacionadas. Entonces, después de un accidente, llama 305-800-PAIN. El número es el nombre de la marca, 305-800-PAIN. Well, we're back here. Shout out to Kermit. Would not, there's a lot of armed military people in that stadium, would recommend storming it, but come out there with the win for sure. We did do it. Yeah, shout out. We got regular viewers for this Sunday morning show.
I know, I'm noticing that.
Yeah, shout out to J-Rock and Kermit, regulars around these parts. DJ, so I guess last week, as you alluded to, we were not optimistic that the committee would do the right thing to reset. We went live with normal time, 10 a.m., so kind of right, by the time we wrapped up, it was about 45 minutes before the selection show. And at that point, it did look, the betting odds were against the Canes making it in. I think we all kind of thought, at least in my head, I'm like, they should have moved us ahead of Notre Dame previously, that they hadn't done it yet. Why would they do it last minute? Yeah. But lo and behold, DJ, our Hurricanes are in the playoffs. So I guess, what was your initial reaction when that Miami came up?
I was shocked. I was shocked that the committee changed their mind. I was shocked that the Hurricanes were in the playoffs. And I was relieved that the committee finally made the right decision. And like I had said last Monday, I noticed that the public kind of rallying around the Hurricanes to get into the playoffs really kind of exploded within the last week or so. So I think that push really kind of maybe influenced the committee's decision a little bit. Regardless of what it was the correct decision, and Notre Dame quite literally took their ball and went home. So, I mean, it was a win for Hurricanes fans all around.
Yeah, shout out to Martin from Botswana in the chat, and then my guy Rock and Rant. Thanks for the dono. Yeah, we were very wrong. Yeah, I mean, to my point was that, first of all, as we talked about last week, they made a mistake starting the Canes at 18. They were never that bad. They overreacted to an overtime. Keep in mind, It's one loss by 3 points in an overtime loss, and they overreacted pretty heavily to that, especially the overtime loss being with some very dodgy officiating really the entire second half. That the Canes won that game about 4 or 5 times before they finally lost it. So, I think they overreacted, started the Canes too low, but as it tightened up over the weeks, and the Canes did become undeniable in terms of having, basically being even with Notre Dame. But that happened the week before after they blew out Pitt, and it was kind of like, okay, they're even on strength of schedule. All the metrics are basically tied. There's like 1 spot difference. How do you not move the Canes head at that point? So yeah, to Rock and Rant's point, at that point, I'm like, they're not going to do it. They would have already done it because they'll look stupid doing it when neither of the teams played. But guess they didn't mind looking stupid, and we're thankful for that. So they did end up looking stupid, and as you said, Notre Dame had a hissy fit and took their ball and went home, and the Canes, they're taking their ball to the playoffs. So I think it ended up at the right. I think the process was messed up, but the decision I don't think is even controversial, to be honest. I think the process was bad, but the decision. I mean, 2 teams played. They put the team that won in front. I think the most hilarious part is Notre Dame fans unironically saying, looking at the A&M and Miami matchup and saying, we beat both these teams. It's like, buddy, you played both these teams and you beat none of them. So they are delusional. They are melted down, and it's just making it even sweeter, to be honest, because screw that team.
I agree. I can't say it better myself, and I've always hated Notre Dame. And it really started from when I was young and has continued. So I'm very happy that Notre Dame is not in the playoffs. Join a conference if you really want to get in the playoff discussion. And yeah, I'm just happy that I'm sitting here looking at the first round previews right now. So, I mean,
yeah, just on that point, right? They have, if you forgot why you hated Notre Dame, they certainly reminded you over the last week with their conceited attitude. And, they love to crap on the ACC. The ACC helps them out quite a bit. Now, the ACC benefits tangentially. They get a better TV contract, although the TV contract is awful right now. That's a whole other issue. And they get better bowl tie-ins because Notre Dame's an option for those bowls as well. But other than that, I mean, the ACC carries all of Notre Dame's other sports, which you have to be in a conference, and you cannot be like independent in basketball. You'll be dead as a program. And during COVID, when teams did not play out conference games, the ACC allowed Notre Dame to join, so they actually had a season. The ACC agreement right now allows Notre Dame to actually have games in October and November against P4 schools, because you think Alabama, instead of playing Eastern Illinois, is going to play Notre Dame in that warm-up before the Auburn game? Of course not. Like, if you look at the Notre Dame schedule and go back years, ever since they kind of had that relationship with the ACC, their October and November schedule, other than USC, who is apparently going to end that agreement now, it's all ACC games because the ACC forces their teams to play it. So Notre Dame has benefited immensely from that while crapping on the conference, and this came to a head this week. And yeah, like you said, they can join a conference if they want an automatic bid, or they're kind of running a scam over there because they play an ACC schedule largely while not getting tarred with the ACC sucks BS that Miami has to deal with.
Wow, their hockey team is also in the Big Ten. So it's like,
the hockey team is in the Big Ten because AC doesn't play hockey.
They should.
So, well, I mean, a lot of these are warm weather.
I mean, hey, look at the Panthers, Vish.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean the colleges. Actually, Miami's got like a D3 hockey team that won the championship a couple of years ago. But back on topic here. I mean, they have benefited immensely from this relationship, and yeah, it was kind of shocking to see how full of themselves they are. Although we kind of knew. I mean, it is what it is. They can't beat good teams on the field, and so they're left to doing this. And that's what happened this year. They had 2 opportunities, one against Miami, which we always saw, and one against next week's opponent, DJ, Texas A&M, who went into South Bend and won by a point on a last-second touchdown after Notre Dame had missed an extra point, or actually I think messed the snap up on an extra point. So what are your initial thoughts on this week's opponent, Texas A&M?
They're explosive in both the running and passing game. In terms of passing yardage, they average just about 192 yards per game. 261 yards per game. And then rushing yardage is 192 yards per game, just a little bit over that. So they can beat you through the air and on the ground. It seems to me that their rushing attack has really been the key to their offense this season. And when you look at their total offense, they average just over 454 yards a game. And so this is an explosive offensive team, and their defense can hold their own. So I'm really interested to see if the Miami defensive line, for example, can neutralize that multifaceted offense. I like this matchup for Miami because I think there's enough holes in this Texas A&M team, like their defense at times, kind of relying on the run quite a bit, where if they can, stop the run, then that makes them one-dimensional. So I like this matchup for Miami. I know a lot of people are kind of doubting the Hurricanes, big surprise there, but as long as they take care of business and recognize the strengths of A&M, which they will, I feel very good about this matchup.
Yeah, it is a matchup where, like you said, A&M's balanced on offense. They're top 30 in both rushing and passing offense and total offense as well. So yeah, they've been pretty well balanced. Their quarterback, Marcel Reed, is a dual threat, so the Canes are gonna have to contain him. He's their second leading rusher. And obviously is a solid passer. He has thrown some interceptions this year. So he's not one of those never throws an interception guys. So you can force him into mistakes. But yeah, they've been very up and down for a team that was 11-0 and obviously lost the last game to Texas. They've been very up and down performance wise. A lot of close games against teams that aren't very good. Auburn by 6 at home, Arkansas by 3 on the road, and South Carolina by 1 at home, which obviously we all remember South Carolina was up 30-3. Yeah, and A&M came storming back and won by a point. So yeah, they've won a lot of games while not playing particularly well. And yeah, as J-Rod said, there are times where they look like they're not a good football team. Like when you watch that game against Auburn or SC or Texas, you're like, this team isn't very good. And then, of course, they also have some really nice wins. I know, I more than most have been very much in the camp for multiple years now that Missouri is not a good football team, but they did go into Columbia and blow them out. So it wasn't competitive, right? So they have a couple of those. I believe they blew out. They blew out another good team on the road too, or solid, middle level SEC teams. So they've kind of been up and down. But yeah, because we start talking about Auburn, Arkansas, South Carolina, you're talking about some of the worst teams in the SEC that they're struggling with there, but then, beat some of the better ones more convincingly. Importantly, did not play a lot of the top teams in the SEC. The only one that they played in the top half was Texas. Obviously Texas beat them. They didn't play any of the other playoff teams. So it's hard to tell. They obviously did go to South Bend and beat Notre Dame, but Notre Dame doesn't beat good teams. So it's not surprising. And yeah, they're kind of all over the place. It depends on which team shows up. Their last 3 games are that South Carolina game with the big comeback, and they played a directional school that SEC scheduling of cupcakes right before the last game, and then they got handled by Texas. So they're not necessarily playing their best ball right now.
No, they're not. But at the same time, this is a team like we said that. When they're on, and that includes the defensive side of the football as well. They have several playmakers there too. So, at this point, it's like a clean slate. You throw everything out from the regular
that's a good
season.
Point. I wanted to ask you about that. So it's like the Canes were hitting their stride. Those last 4 games weren't even competitive. They killed all 4 teams. But that last game was Thanksgiving weekend. Not going to play again until That's almost like that's like 3 week layoff. Obviously, Texas A&M stumbled down the stretch into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Does any of that matter? Like, can you carry momentum 3 or 4 weeks forward into the playoffs like that, or is it kind of a reset?
I think it's kind of a reset because it's tough. I mean, even on a bye week, it's sometimes hard to keep momentum from the last game you played. So, I mean, you're talking like 3 weeks, and this is the same problem. In theory, that Miami will have when they go on and face the national championship, since the game is practically in March. No, just kidding, it's not, but it's really late in January. So these longer layoffs are really interesting, and while I think the momentum for the final stretch of the season is important, I feel like that 3 week layoff allows everybody to kind of, have to start new and start fresh, and that could be a good thing or that can be a really bad thing, and we'll see.
Yeah, we saw that with Ohio State last year, yanking that game against Michigan, and it didn't really affect their postseason performance. They were fine in the postseason. There's a bit of a layoff there. Yeah, to J-Rock's point, well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with this. So Texas A&M leads the nation in sacks.
Yeah, they have a lot of good rushers, a lot of good pass rush.
They're very good pass rush. They are very dependent on that pass rush to get home, though. To your point, if the Canes can block them up, then that is an area where the secondary is not there. But their guy Cassius Howell is also 5th nationally in sacks from an individual standpoint. They're a very good pass rushing team. They get a lot of pressure, so we'll see. The Canes have not really had to deal with. Well, they play teams that can rush the passer. The thing is, the offensive line for the Canes is one of, if not the best in the country, and they've held up every time. So something's going to give here, because you got the top sack team in the country against one of, if not the best offensive line, and that matchup is likely the key to at least the Canes' offense. We'll talk about the other side of the ball too, but if the Canes can block that pass rush, again, they're tied with Oklahoma for number 1 in the nation in sacks. So they're used to getting that pressure. Now on the flip side, I looked this stat up, TJ, in 3 different sources because I did not believe it. Texas A&M has a total of 3 interceptions this year.
3?
3 as a team. They have, and their leading interceptor there's 3 guys have 1 each.
Hey, share the wealth.
I looked it up and I was like, did I get like a partial stat? So I checked the official NCAA stats. I checked the ESPN stats. And I checked their website stats. They have 3 interceptions as a team.
Wow.
So it is going to be so if we can hold that pass rush off, then they're not a team that forces a lot of mistakes and turnovers.
Quarterbacks
they haven't necessarily bullied people. They haven't
Yeah.
necessarily bullied people, and their defense has given up points at times this year. They have been in some more high-scoring games, but they do have a defensive line that's very disruptive, gets a lot of sacks, and if the Canes need to be able to block that, and then the defense is exploitable. We've seen that, not just South Carolina putting up 30, but Arkansas, I believe, put up 42. Obviously, Notre Dame, that was a high-scoring game. They won by a point. You can score on this team if you block them. When they dominate, it's when their defensive line just owns the game. So that's going to be the key. But yeah, like they're not a team that causes turnovers. 3 interceptions.
Well, when the quarterback's always on the ground, it's hard for them to create turnovers and throw interceptions, I guess. So
yeah, no, that's definitely a factor, right? So when you sack the quarterback as much as they do, there's not as many. Often interceptions come when the quarterback, and we've seen this with Carson Beck, obviously, when he's had his off games, come when the quarterback's under pressure, and if they're taking the sacks, you're not going to get the interceptions on it. So there's certainly an element of that. But I mean, we can also see just the point totals they've given up: 40 to Notre Dame, 42 to Arkansas, 25 to LSU, who's not a good offense, 30 to South Carolina, 27 to Texas in that loss. So there have been times where they've given up, high scores. The Canes have not really done that this year. Their losses have tended to be more in the low scoring. I mean, 26 points in overtime is to SMU, and then the Louisville game was another close one. So I think, in terms of showing that they give up a lot of points, like the Canes have not done that. So the most points the Canes have given up this year is 26 in overtime, but in regulation is 24 twice to Notre Dame and to Louisville. So, in terms of giving up a lot of points, definitely, A&M's done that more frequently. And again, some of these teams that A&M did it against are not very good. Like Arkansas, is one of the worst teams in the country, and they gave up 42 points to them. So this defense can be exploited, but that is again contingent on blocking them. So that will be the key. The key will be up front.
They have a multifaceted pass rush, and I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking back on the season now, I don't think that we've seen like this pass rush type of level this season. I feel like the fact that multiple guys can get home is something that
that is definitely, in terms of their defense, that is their superpower, right? They're an elite pass rush. Like you said, multiple guys that can get home, lead the nation in sacks, and that's how they get by defensively. The rest of it, they do have one linebacker, Torian York, who's really good. Other than that, they're kind of weak in the back seven, but that front four eats, and that is kind of and when they don't, you do see the points go up. But like you said, the Canes have not faced a defensive line like this. But that's because there aren't really any. I don't think A&M's faced an offensive line like the Canes either. So that's something's got to give there. On the other side of the ball, as Jared mentioned, they do have some talented skill players. We talked about Marcel Reed, the quarterback. He's kind of the dual threat. He's a little bit erratic, but Casey Concepcion, their receiver, is one of the most explosive players in the country. Great hands, good punt returner as well. Canes will need to handle him. He is their big play guy. And thoughts on the Canes secondary holding up, and then I know Martin mentioned Keontae Scott potentially coming back. We'll talk about that in a second. But
that's definitely huge for the Hurricanes. And then I was also looking at Ruben Owens out of the backfield and the way he can rush the football. I mean, he's not a 1,000-yard rusher by any means, but he can provide balance to their offensive side of the ball, and they do run the ball very well. So that's something, like Martin just mentioned, Keontae Scott's coming back. We saw the run defense become a little leaky towards the end of the season due to injuries, right? And so the chess match between the running game and the defense will be fun to watch as well.
Yeah, I think a big thing for the Canes, because if you look at, they don't, there's occasional explosives they give up, but at the beginning of the year, they had those busts, Notre Dame in particular. I mean, if you go back and watch that Notre Dame game, we've talked about this quite a bit, but the score was a lot closer in the actual game. I know that the narrative there is the Canes kind of went into a shell and tried to manage the game out. I think there's an element of that, but actually defensively, there were a lot of fluky plays. I don't know if you remember their first touchdown was 3rd and goal from like the 12 and scrambled around, just threw it up off of his back foot into traffic, and they caught it. It should have been that should have been paid off on that. The Canes messed a snap up on a field goal in the first quarter, didn't score. There was a lot that went into that first game type stuff. But over the course of the season, they've cleaned up those coverage busts, because even after that, there were issues against USF and Florida State. Less so against Florida because they didn't really do anything, but where they would just randomly lose a guy, or the quarterback would roll out and they would lose contain on it and get hit over the top. They've largely squeezed that out. We haven't really seen that even in the losses to Louisville and to SMU. We didn't really see those coverage busts. There were a couple against Pitt, so hopefully they clean that up. But they've gotten better with that. And when teams score on the Canes lately, it's been generally early in the drive, opportunities to get off the field, and they don't do it. 3rd and longs, or after a negative play, not paying it off. And I feel like once a team gets a couple of first downs on the Canes, they tend to move the ball. But Canes obviously do a great job getting those 3 and outs. So I think the big key here will be not allowing Marcel Reed to extend plays, extend drives with his legs. And when you gum them up on 3rd, you get 3rd and long, you got to get off the field, make those tackles. Make sure you keep him in the pocket. I think the Canes might spy him in those pass situations just to make sure he doesn't get loose, because those are the killers. And the one drive Pitt had, we saw that where they try to give up play on 3rd and long and ran for a first down and then went down and scored. Like, those are ones where you got to get off the field. I think that'll be very key. The 3rd down conversion percentage, if the Canes can get off the field on 3rd down, then they'll be fine. And to your point, I'm not afraid of them like lighting up the scoreboard and putting up 40 points, which they've shown capable of. I'm more just talking about, I mean, look, the way the Canes lose this game is something like the way they lost Louisville, minus the interceptions, but just tight game, back and forth, within a score here or there, and it's a play here or there at the end, right? And so the way they get it out of that range is to get off the field on 3rd down, force the punts, and then control the ball offensively. And I think they have the ability to do that. So we'll see. But I think that focus on 3rd down and getting off the field on 3rd down is going to be huge. That, and EJ, we got to talk about this because it is a thing. The stupid penalties cannot happen. You cannot.
That was going to be my next point. Yeah.
Go for it, man.
Well, actually, I just kind of first wanted to go back to what you're saying about a running quarterback. One of the games that comes to mind for me is SMU and the way Kevin Jennings played, and there were some coverage busts there too because of the way you got to respect Jennings' ability with his legs and his arms. So, that game came to mind as well. But anyway, the stupid penalties cannot happen. Hands to the face. Wasn't there a late hit penalties? Make sure you open your ears and hear the whistle. If any Hurricanes players are listening, open your ears, hear the whistle. No late after the play hits. I mean, those are just types of things that can eat you up. And I know that the officiating has been unfair to Miami at times this season, but in an entire season where it's been unfair, like you've said before, Vish, you just got to recognize that they call it a little bit differently for Miami and adjust. And, hands to the face, taunting, late hits, we cannot have that at all because Texas A&M will capitalize in a big way with their offense. And if they can just clean the penalties up, then they'll be in good shape. But it's been a problem throughout the season, so I don't know if it will continue.
Yeah, there's been games where they have, like NC State was one where it was very clean. Pitt to a certain extent, and actually Pitt was the one doing the stupid stuff, and that was very helpful. Especially on the other side of that, Virginia Tech, a lot of dumb penalties. So yeah, it's been hit or miss. They cannot look the pre-snap stuff too. Those aren't dumb penalties, and look, it's a loud environment. They got to be ready for that. Cannot be false starting left and right. There have been games where that's killed drives. And then some of it's also they got to be able to overcome those. Those 5-yard penalties should not automatically be a drive killer. So
they've been doing better
Virginia
at that,
Tech,
I feel like.
Yeah, against Virginia Tech, it wasn't. That first touchdown to Lofton was on 2nd and 15 after a false start. So they've been able to overcome that better. But that you can't overcome the giving up free first downs because you extracurriculars after the play. There cannot no personal fouls in this game.
Or false starting in the neutral zone. Like, hello.
yeah, jumping on sides. But I think that can happen once in a while. To the extent it was happening to the middle of the season is way too unacceptable. But like a pre-snap here or there, look, you don't want it to happen, but it can happen, especially in a game like this with the juiced up atmosphere and it's loud. But the personal fouls just should not happen.
Yeah.
And, the after the play, like when the whistle blows, just let the guy go. That kind of stuff needs to be adhered to. Because as you said, we know like they're going to call it on Miami, and they're not going to call it the other way. So you gotta be prepared for that. We've seen that all year. We saw it in the SEC championship game when Georgia hit the quarterback after they blew the whistle and there was no flag, and that actually is why Miami has 2 losses instead of 1.
Yep,
that's actually why Miami would probably be on a bye. I think they'd probably be ranked ahead of Texas Tech. At worst, they would be hosting a game against an FCS an FBS G5 school, like they'd be hosting like James Madison or something. So because they call that penalty, so like, and Georgia didn't even call it, and that's kind of the way it is, right? So you got to deal with it, but like you said, they have to adjust that, know what's going to happen, especially in that environment, right? They're gonna naturally take Miami out of the equation. They're naturally gonna be a little bit harsher on the road team. So just got to play smart with that. The penalties have certainly hurt the Canes this year in critical spots, and you can't have that on Saturday.
No, and I think when you look at how this offense has been producing, especially over this last 4 games, they've done a better job of getting themselves out of tricky situations in regards to penalties and in regards to second and long situations. It seems like the playbook has been opened up a little bit to where Carson Beck is more comfortable and he has more time to make his reads and make throws that he trusts. And like you said, this was really a problem early in the season when things were kind of, I guess, a little bit of a mismatch offensively, but over the last few games, we saw them kind of open things up, let him take the throws that he knows he can make, and that greatly improved the offense. So I'm hoping we see some of that as well on Saturday.
Yep, it'll be a time. Yeah, I think we'll obviously have more on the Six Rings Cane show tomorrow as well as our predictions. So definitely tune in at 8:30. Before we start, we're going to talk about this awesome recruiting class Mario brought in, which we were going to talk about last week, but obviously with the playoff announcement imminent, no one wanted to talk about that, but we are going to talk about that now. But real quick, just to address Fish and Crackers points here, congratulations to Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman. Really cool local kid from Columbus. And I will just say this. I'm very happy with the Canes' current quarterback, and I think you will be over the next 4 games. So I don't think we're going to be talking about this by the end of the season. Anyway, moving on. I mean, look, congratulations to him. It's really cool that someone from Columbus and a Cuban American, obviously very important in our community, won the Heisman. That is really cool. I also don't know that he's certainly not the only reason that program's been successful. I've watched their defense play. Only threw for 300 yards once this season. So I think, if he was doing that here, I don't know that the Heisman would have found its way to him, given that Cam Ward finished 4th. But anyway, let's focus on our team. We got our quarterback, and we're headed to College Station this weekend. All right, recruiting class. Speaking of quarterbacks, there's a future potential star quarterback in this class, but generally, DJ, what are your thoughts on the class that Mario Canal was about 10 days ago?
I really like it. It's well-rounded. You have a guy like Jackson Cantwell, then you have Samarian Wingo. You have, a guy that's flown a little bit under the radar during the recruiting process, and J.J. Dunnigan really kind of came on late and was a rising star. I absolutely loved Jordan Campbell. I have for a while. And then you look at the secondary, Jalen Waters. I mean, you have Justin Edwards at linebacker, just a whole collection of absolute studs at every position. Darion Coleman, who I believe is who you were referring to, who is an absolute stud. Cannon Pickett at offensive tackle. I mean, the list can go on and on, but you look at this class, and there are some dudes at every position. Really, really good class. Of course, I got to give a shout out to the tight ends, but by and large, I'm really impressed with this class, and I'm really impressed with the secondary group as well. I believe it's one of the best.
And we should also shout out, very familiar name, Camden Portis.
Yeah, absolutely.
Legacy here at the U.
That Portis guy was pretty good.
Yeah, that Portis guy, not bad. His Camden is a cornerback. To your point, Jackson Campbell's the headline lane, right? I mean, I think it's kind of interesting because this class I think one of the reasons this whole class kind of went on. It's a top 10 class. It's one of the best in the country. And like you said, it's loaded with studs. I don't think there's a reach or a bad take here, which is rare when you take as many, I think it's 28 kids. to not have to reach for any of them is rare. But I think one of the things that Mario has brought here with his approach is the drama is gone, right? He's organized, he's stability, he's meticulous. And so when you land the number one player in the country, which is what Jackson Cantwell is, and he no drama, just like, yeah, I'm going to Miami. He did his announcement months ago and then signs. It doesn't have the same flash as like, let me play the hat game on signing day.
Yep.
Oh, look, we got. But man, that kid is almost certainly, if you look at the attrition the Canes are going to have at the offensive line, he's probably starting the opener next year. That he's that good, just straight away, like as a true freshman. I believe only one or two of the kids are not enrolling in January too, which is huge to get on the field early. Like Mario is definitely he has brought a professionalism to how we approach recruiting and a seriousness to it that is paying off big time. And you kind of see it. There was no drama. There was no drama on signing day. Everyone just signed and just like, wow, this is great. And it used to be, a little bit of a circus. One other guy you didn't mention that I'm really excited for is the West Boca running back Javian Mallory. Congrats to him, won the championship yesterday. Or is it Friday? Won the championship this weekend. Really excited to see him as well. I think he's another explosive back. And, the Canes continue to build that running back room out. But yeah, this class is great. A lot of skill position and both lines of scrimmage. So really well balanced and this is exactly what you need to do to continue to build this program. To Martin's point, Milan Paris, another receivers out of Akron. Just again, Mario's kind of recruiting nationally, identifying, I think, kids that fit well here. And that's why you're not seeing the drama and the hack games and all that stuff really happening. So we will see. And shout out to Canes Up No Zone. What's up, man? So let's talk about this because we mentioned Darian Coleman briefly. Obviously, Luke Nickel was the headline recruit last year. Quarterback transfer market is starting to look shaky. I'm assuming that's referring to Lenore Sellers. He's signing a re-signing with South Carolina for more NIL money. I know there was
crazy that you can put those words in a college football sentence now.
Look, man, I've mentally adjusted. Patey's bet their money. So what are your thoughts on Darian Coleman, Luke Nickel, and kind of that position next year? Obviously, Emory Williams and Jed Anderson are technically still here for now. We'll see if that's the case at the end of the transfer window. But which again, there's only one transfer portal window now in January, so it's very different from years in the past. But I guess what are your thoughts on the quarterback position, potentially Darian Coleman and Luke Nickel as a position battle? And do you still think the Canes go into the portal?
I really, really like both Nickel and Coleman. I think they're talented. I mean, obviously, we had Nickel on our Monday show, and he's got a great arm. Coleman's a great overall athlete, along with a great arm. I still think they're a little bit raw, so I think they do go into the portal this season. But after the 2026 season, they go with either Coleman or Nickel. They're not going to go into the portal because Coleman and Nickel are bad. I just don't think they're ready quite yet. But I would say that this coming season, the 2026 campaign, is probably one of the last we'll see Miami grab a portal quarterback for a little bit.
Yeah, and J-Rock's putting some names out here. Levitt, I know, has been rumored for a couple of years now. Sorsby at Texas Tech. I'm actually not that high. And then obviously CJ Billett with Ohio State. We definitely saw his worst game.
We got a bag from Cincinnati. I look at some of the numbers. I'm like,
yeah. I know Texas Tech will up the bag though.
Oh yeah,
and again,
yeah.
But also I wouldn't get in that game. I don't think he's really worth that. Okay, so this is 805K. You're not a dumbass though, but good to know who you are. I think it's a tough situation, right? Because at some point, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, right? It's different when you're benching Emory Williams to get a portal quarterback. Like Luke Nickel and Darian Coleman are elites recruits, right? Emory Williams was more of a project that, I mean, largely, has proven to kind of be at the level that we thought coming in. Judd Anderson was never really intended to be the starting quarterback here, so it's different when you go into the portal and get Cam and then Carson Beck when there not really a starter. And now, I mean, at some point, Nickel's going to have to play. Darren Coleman's going to have to play. And if you go get another portal quarterback, I mean, they're both on ice essentially another year. And then that'll be Nickel going his third year on campus. He's obviously going to redshirt this year. Darren Coleman's second year on campus, and they're battling it out. I'm assuming at that point to be the starter. I mean, at what point? At some point, I do wonder if the Canes don't. I think I've been pretty consistent in saying I think they're going to go into the portal. I'm starting to question that. I think if they get like a guy they think is like at the top level, yes, but at some point you got to play Nickel and you got to play or Coleman. One of the two needs to play. The other one's probably a transfer, for being honest about it, eventually. But I don't know how you can keep getting, because they did not have that level of recruit when they got Cam, when they got Carson back. Like those were no. So it's hard to continue to bench those guys.
Yeah.
And when you look at the roster next year and all of the players that are being lost on the lines of scrimmage, defensive line, offensive line, I mean, what is the ceiling for is next year the right year to break in one of the younger quarterbacks? Maybe. It might be, if you start thinking about, a team that could potentially go from having to break in other players as well, that is likely going to be a lot better in November than it is in September as they get experience. It makes sense to grow the quarterback with them. Now, I'm not saying CCH that they should just put them in just to put them in. I'm saying if they believe in the talent and they just need like opportunities, I don't know that you need to go into the portal. If you're also, again, obviously Malachi's back, a lot of young receivers back. You have to rebuild the offensive and defensive lines, although some of the younger guys, especially on the defensive line, are really starting to show up. So that'll probably be better but there's going to be a little bit of a transition there, and you do wonder if it's part of that. You also transition the quarterback to one of the younger guys, but we'll see. Yeah, no, I mean, if there's an elite, of course, if you're able to get an elite receiver, then I mean, elite quarterback, you go ahead and do it. But I don't know. I think unlike last year, you could not go into the season with Emory Williams the starting quarterback. You absolutely could not. Not with this offensive line, defensive line, depth in the running back room, skill position players. You couldn't then go, oh, well, Emory's going to – you had to get a quarterback. Next year, I think Nickel, assuming he's who we thought, like you said, we're really high on him. I have not moved off that stance at all. I think he's going to be a star. And then we got Darren Coleman. I think between the two of them, you're probably okay, unless there's someone that's really at another level that's proven it. Right now, if Carson Beck were to go down, knock on wood.
Don't even say that.
I mean, it's going to be Emory, but I think Tony. There'll be a lot of Wildcat too. But yeah, so they'll be interesting to see what they do in the portal. That's the one position where there isn't, where it's still very raw. We'll see how that plays out. Anything else on this class stand out to you before we kind of wrap things up here?
No, just a really good class, a really good secondary class. A lot of impact playmakers on defense, obviously headlined by Cantwell, and I'm just really impressed with the work that they've been able to do over these past couple classes and getting blue chip prospects and elite offensive and defensive linemen. So it's all coming together, and we've kind of seen that over the past couple classes, and now what's going to be the exciting part is watching them develop. So I'm really excited about this group. Like you said, Javian Mallory, I think is going to be a stud. So I'm excited to see all these guys come in and make an impact. And who knows, we may see some of these guys day one.
Yeah, and loaded up. I mentioned, there's going to be attrition on both lines of scrimmage with, just go. The other thing, breaking news. I kind of expect Ruben Bain to go pro. I'm just throwing it out there. Mesidor is out of eligibility. Moten, I believe, is a senior. David Blaze is a senior. Hopefully he's back this week. So, there's going to be attrition there. And you see, just look at the Canes, like there are 8 defensive linemen in this class. So they attacked that position of need. And then, you mentioned the offensive line. I think Jackson Cantwell's a day 1 starter, but got 5 other really good offensive line prospects. Because again, Maui Noah's going to go in the first round. You're going to lose some. I think Markel's out of eligibility as well. So you're going to lose some. And as Cooper is a senior, so you're going to lose some of those offensive linemen you got to replace. And again, Jackson Cantwell, I think, is a day 1 starter. But there's other guys, that we recruited in previous classes that are going to step up in those positions, but just stacking those classes. So yeah, really excited to see that play. I guess the last thing real quick before we wrap up here, there's a comment earlier about Keontae Scott potentially playing this week. I think one of the challenges we're going to have is, since this is not an ACC game, I'm pretty sure the Canes will not release an injury report. So we're going to be guessing. Back to guessing, because they have been releasing an injury report, obviously, as required by ACC rules for ACC games. Those are not required for out-of-conference games. Same thing with A&M, by the way. SEC games require injury reports. I'm assuming they also will not have to do so for a playoff game. So we'll be guessing all week. I think on Blay and on Keontae Scott is potentially coming back defensively. Other than that, team's relatively healthy, all things considered.
And Scott coming back would be so nice, especially when we talked about the running attack earlier.
Well, it's one of those situations where him coming back at this juncture, his absence has allowed other players to also grow into it. Like Bryce Fitzgerald has gotten more consistent playing time. We've had to, we've played Jacoby in the slot at nickel some, moved some guys around, gotten them more experience, and now if you add Scott back in, I mean, they're all just going to benefit from getting that experience. So could be huge. 850/Canes up, nose down. Thinks is a fan of Izzy. So
he's a really talented player.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's more of a tight end than a receiver, but we'll see. I mean, yes and no, right? It's got to be they got to be better than Nickel. So, and Nickel's really good as a prospect, so that's the difference, right? And the comments keep bringing in the best QBs with experience for sure, but they got to be better. They got to be better than your existing quarterbacks. And I feel like that was a no-brainer when it's Emory Williams.
Yeah, and I feel like people view, a lot of people think that you can just get a Cam Ward or a Carson Beck out of the transfer portal every year, and the reality is that Miami struck gold there. I mean, you can't get a Cam Ward or a Carson Beck every year, and we were very lucky to do so.
I mean, let's be real. Carson Beck we got because his arm broke in half or whatever last year at the SEC championship game. He was available. Otherwise, he would be on an NFL roster right now because he was going to go pro and be I guess technically not day 1 anymore the way it's broken up, but top 3 round pick is where he was projected last year when his arm got yanked out of its socket or exploded or whatever happened there. So, I mean, some of this is fortuitous as well in that sense.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we'll see what the Canes do. A lot of football left to be played, fortunately, this year for your Miami Hurricanes. They head to College Station again. That game is Saturday at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. local. That'll be on ABC and ESPN. Getting dual broadcast there. We'll have 6 Rings Cane Show Monday at 8:30. That will full breakdown of A&M, and we will get predictions and hopefully a little bit more sedated Blue this week. he was fired up last week.
That was awesome. I love
it. And then CCH, to answer your question, Buckets is Thursday. We have been dodging schedules trying to get a line there. We will be out at the Watt today. Women host NC State, a huge conference game on at 2 p.m. So head out to the Watt if you're local. The men host FIU on Tuesday, and the women are at Wake Forest on Thursday. We will have Buckets Thursday after the women's game. CCH, you don't have to yell Buckets in the chat 50 times. So Buckets Thursday after the women's game. We will. They're not, but that's okay. We will break down the men's and women's programs as they head towards ACC play. The women will have actually played 2 ACC games at that point. DJ, thanks as always for joining me on this Sunday morning. It's always a fun show to do, especially when we can talk playoffs. We will be back. It'll be a little early for me. It'll be a 9 a.m. start time for me next week. We'll be back at the same time and plays next week. Hopefully, talking about a win. Over A&M. Either way, there will be a game played on Saturday, so we'll talk about it. But I feel like it's going to be a win, and we'll be looking ahead to Ohio State and the Cotton Bowl. But we'll talk about that next week.
That would be a fun game. Yeah.
Oh, if you look at the path through, there's a lot of drama on the horizon. There's Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl. There's Carson Beck's old school in the Fiesta Bowl, and then hosting the championship game. That is on the horizon for the Canes. That is on the horizon for our Canes. But first things first, A&M and College Station at Kyle Field Saturday at noon. DJ, thanks for joining me, and
absolutely
talk next week.
Talk next week. Canes. Hopefully about a win.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.